Millions of people wake up every morning feeling nothing. Not sad, not happy, just silence. For many, that silence has a name, Zoloft. It was prescribed as help, marketed as balance, and accepted as normal. But what happens when a medication doesn't just treat pain, but instead quietly reshapes who you are? This is not a video against medicine. This is a story about what happens when emotions are chemically changed, and what it truly costs to live in a world where feeling less is sold as feeling better. In the early 1990s, a new wave of antidepressants was introduced as a breakthrough. They were seen as a modern answer to the ancient problems of depression and anxiety. Zoloft, known by its generic name sertraline, was heavily promoted as safe, effective, and for many, necessary. Doctors embraced it with confidence, and patients, desperate for relief, trusted it completely. It did not take long for Zoloft to become one of the most prescribed antidepressants in the United States, a household name synonymous with mental wellness. The ads promised a return to normalcy, a way to balance the brain's chemistry and lift the fog of despair. But behind all the optimism and the rush to prescribe, one critical question remained largely unanswered, pushed aside in the name of progress. What do I's long-term emotional regulation really cost? We were so focused on stopping the pain that we never stopped to ask what we were giving up in exchange. Zoloft works by increasing the levels of serotonin in the brain. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger, famously linked to mood, happiness, and stability. On paper, the logic is simple. More serotonin means less suffering. A happier brain equals a happier life. In reality, the brain is not a simple machine with an on-off switch for sadness. It's an incredibly complex ecosystem. By artificially altering this delicate chemical balance, Zoloft doesn't just reduce the sharp edges of sadness. For many people, it reduces the intensity of everything. Joy becomes softer, more muted. Pain becomes distant, something you observe rather than feel. Love becomes quieter, less passionate. For some patients, this emotional dampening feels like a welcome relief, a necessary shield against overwhelming pain. But for many others, it feels like becoming a spectator in their own life, watching their experiences unfold from behind a pane of glass, unable to fully connect with the world or even themselves. As the prescriptions piled up, so did a cultural shift. In America, antidepressants became routine. They were offered as a prescription for stress, a quick solution for sadness, a shortcut for processing pain. Instead of asking the difficult questions, why are so many people suffering? What in our society is causing this widespread despair? The system offered a pill, a whole generation, and then the next learned to regulate their emotions not through therapy, community, or lifestyle changes, but chemically, and not just temporarily as a short-term bridge, but indefinitely. For years, sometimes decades. Zoloft didn't just treat individuals. It shaped a culture. It reinforced the idea that emotional discomfort wasn't a natural part of the human experience to be worked through, but a medical problem to be eliminated. And in doing so, we might have medicated away the very signals our minds were sending us that something needed to change. Some side effects are printed clearly on the medication's label. Others are learned slowly, quietly, over months and years of use. Patients from all walks of life began to describe a similar experience, feeling emotionally flat, disconnected. They found themselves unable to cry at a funeral or feel genuine excitement at a celebration. They weren't depressed anymore, not in the traditional sense, but they weren't fully present either. They felt absent. This emotional numbing seeps into every corner of a person's life. Relationships suffer when empathy and passion are dulled. Creativity fades when the highs and lows that fuel art are leveled out. Motivation disappears when the drive to achieve something, to feel pride or ambition, is gone. The medication doesn't erase the pain. It just lowers the volume on everything, the bad, but also the good. You're left in a state of neutral, a gray existence where nothing hurts, but nothing truly matters either. For many, stopping Zoloft is often much harder than starting it. The process of withdrawal can be a brutal experience. People report intense confusion, chronic insomnia, and strange, terrifying sensations often described as brain zaps, like tiny electric shocks inside their head. Overwhelming anxiety and deep depression can return with a vengeance. Many are told by their doctors that these symptoms are just their original illness coming back, proving they need the medication for life. But often, it's not the illness. It's the brain, which has adapted 2 years of chemical support, struggling violently to function on its own again. This creates a silent trap. It's not addiction in the classic sense, but it is a powerful form of dependence. You feel you can't live with the medication because it makes you feel numb, but you fear you can't live without it because the withdrawal is unbearable. It's a prison with invisible bars. While millions of patients struggle with these complex realities, the pharmaceutical industry thrives. Antidepressants like Zoloft generate billions upon billions of dollars in revenue every single year. Prescriptions continue to be written at an astonishing rate, and the difficult, uncomfortable conversations about long-term consequences and the challenges of withdrawal remain often minimized in both doctors' offices and public discourse. This isn't some grand conspiracy. It's a system built on efficiency, profit, and a collective desire for a quick fix. Human suffering became a scalable business model, and emotional silence became a product. Zoloft is not evil. For some people, it is a lifeline that helps them survive the darkest moments of their lives, and that should never be dismissed. But it is not a miracle cure either. For others, it is a drug that teaches them how to feel less human, trading authentic experience for a manageable but hollow existence. The real question we need to ask is not simply whether the drug works to reduce symptoms. The question is whether Siley should ever be an acceptable substitute for true healing. And what have we lost as individuals and as a culture by choosing to turn the volume down instead of learning to listen to what our pain is trying to tell us? Thank you for watching